Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Alastair Cameron, and together today we are going to be exploring its learning along the themes of communication. As your host today, I'm going to be walking you through its learning and this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. And during this 30-minute short webinar, we will be exploring some of the ways and means that its learning completely supports the ethos of communication in and out of your school. So it's wonderful to have you with me. Now, if you've got any questions as we go through this short, sharp webinar today, please do feel free to put your questions in the questions box on the tab that you've got on your control panel. So if you'd like to ask any questions, please do feel free to do so in the questions box. I'll try and get to answer those questions before the end if they're not too tricky to answer. And if there are any trickier, stickier questions, I'll save those to the end and we'll go through those. So we'll have the next 25-30 minutes looking at its learning in terms of communication and collaboration tools. Now, this is me, and I shall just move me to the side, and you'll notice that I'm going to be spending the entire time in its learning, so there's going to be no death by PowerPoint from me today. Doing this webinar is part of the series of various different themes of exploring the learning platform to support various different elements of your school. I wanted to break it down into various different areas, and I was thinking about all of the different stakeholders that are important in a school in terms of communication and collaboration. And I've got it broken down as follows: based upon parents, the whole community, governors, teachers, and students alike. If I've missed anybody out and you think there are some ways that you think its learning can support various different other stakeholders, perhaps I have missed something out on purpose, perhaps I haven't. And if you've got some suggestions, please do feel free to let me know via the questions box. So, first of all, I wanted to stop at parents. Now, I'm going to take a quick view of looking at its learning from a parental perspective. It's incredibly important to keep your parents up to date with information that is happening in the school, and a certain element of that can happen obviously via a good quality website that needs to be updated by the school. But in terms of actual homeschool links with details coming through dynamically from a student's progression, and you want their parents to actually see where they are with their learning and to be able to support that learning at home, this is where a learning platform like its learning really comes to play in terms of automatic information coming through to a parent that is real world, real live information that's coming through automatically that's available to a parent at any time of day. So having access to its learning as a communication tool for parents is fundamentally brilliant because it gives a great deal of information that a parent can then access wherever they are. For example, if I log on as a parent in a school called the It's Learning Academy, this is purely just a mock-up account. If you were wondering, there's me accessing a parental account. I, as a parent of a child that uses its learning, do actually have a parental account myself, and some of the benefits I'll explain in a second to you. So here I am in its learning as a parent of just one child at a school that's using its learning. The opportunity here for a parent to instantly see a lot of information about their own child is really quite in depth, actually. For example, I can see a little bit about my own child. I can see where they are with their learning in terms of this overview of their entire course. I can see that Elizabeth is actually studying in a specific course. And I can see that there are 3 separate courses that Elizabeth is taking currently. I can see an assessment record for Elizabeth, so I can see her grades. I can see her progression against the course, and I can see lesson plans for her too. And I can also see learning objectives. Now, I know you're thinking that's quite a lot of information for a parent to be able to see. However, a school can choose to select which of those elements you want to be able to display to a parent. But in simple terms, I'll explain very quickly about the impact has happened for me as a parent of a child that uses its learning straight away with a child who is in primary school, admittedly, um, comes out of school when they're being picked up from school, when I've had the pleasure of picking them up and then been able to get there on time to do so. The typical things that have been asked of me are, "What's for dinner tonight, Dad?" And "Can I watch TV when I get home?" Or "Can I play on the Wii?" And nothing to do with school. And if I'm very lucky at some point in the evening, if I ask the right question at the right time, just before they fall asleep, I might be able to get a semblance of a response as to what happened at school during that day. Its learning provides an automatic filter into that. And the amazing thing that happened to me 1 month into my own son's school using its learning was my 5-year-old son then came out of school with his 7-year-old brother, and they both pretty much together said, "Dad, can I go on its learning tonight?" And the experience I had as a parent when I went home was incredible. I was able to see what they were doing in school. I was able to see pictures that the teacher had taken and placed inside its learning as a secure place to actually see where they were on their field trip, what they did in their activities on that field trip, and I was able to engage in a much more deeper, richer, fun conversation with my both of my children when they both separately logged on and showed me what they were doing, just because they had its learning available to do that. If I want to see some further information, which has been chosen to be accessible by a parent from the school, I could even see that there are some tasks to complete. I think that's fabulous. How often the homework gets left in the bag or is never taken home, or the homework book's not even completed. Um, then we'll be able to see it all here, assuming, of course, that the homework has been set via its learning. And I can also see, support, congratulate, praise my own children for the work that they've done in completed assessed activities, and I can see some feedback as well. Now, if you're using the attendance and behavior systems inside its learning, you could also choose to have attendance and behavior registered here, which is accessible 24/7 wherever you are. So, as a parent, there are a great deal of ways that you can actually engage and have a communication dialogue with the school without even lifting a finger, apart from just logging into the platform. Its learning does also have the ability to allow parents to communicate with specific people in the school, perhaps at reception or with specific teachers. And that feature of its learning is available to parents as well, to have a safe, secure messaging system inside its learning that will allow, should you wish, a lot of schools obviously would choose not to do so. They don't want to be bombarded with emails from parents all the time. But should you so wish to switch this on, you could have access to the messaging system and be able to send messages out from being a parent back to home, back to school. Beg your pardon. Okay. Moving on, I then wanted to talk about the whole school, the community as a whole, as a stakeholder. Great deal of potential that the platform provides to anybody in the local community. Some schools do go to great lengths and great pains to actually provide facilities out to members of the public to come into school, perhaps to use the IT suite, and use it for evening classes, etc. Using the platform, and this is something that is explored to a great extent, actually, is the ability to provide accounts to guests or to parents to have access to its learning in a course where they can actually learn online. And I can't think of a better opportunity to do that, to actually reinforce some evening classes with the use of the platform to support the learning experience that took place in the evening class or after school club, that parents can then see, or other people in the community can then see, and to perhaps even be able to showcase some of the things that the school is doing outside of normal teaching hours. So the local community can really benefit from using its learning, just simply even as guests. The opportunity to access information inside its learning as a guest means that they will have access to specific areas of its learning that they need in order to see the information that is relevant for them. So that could be community news, that could be information about things that are happening at the school soon. It could even be questionnaires and surveys that are being taken out to the local community by the school, perhaps even by students completing exercises or projects in their own learning and study. The next area that I wanted to explore was governors. Opportunity to allow communication for governors is critical to their success, I think. And I've been exploring this with one particular school at the moment in terms of how a governing body can actually utilize online learning uh, and the platform that's wrapped around that to facilitate meetings and support their governors moving through their various different activities and subgroups too. In this way, I'm giving you an example here of how one particular school uses its learning to support governors as a whole. For example, in this one particular area of its learning, the governing body have a full area in its learning to themselves. This is a safe, secure area which only governors can see. It's entirely separate from the rest of the school in terms of teaching and learning taking place in other areas of its learning and the governing body having access to here. Never the two should meet. But here I've got access to governors' meetings, information that's happening, events that are taking place over the next forthcoming few weeks and months, perhaps, and some information other than that that's appearing on the screen. For example, one of the difficult things to do for a lot of governors is to stay in communication with each other because email addresses and telephone numbers do tend to get left in paper format and never retained as a whole. Once everybody's got access to its learning as a governor, they could then go and explore ID numbers by clicking on the links there. We've also got various different governors looking at specific areas in their own area, which is not available to everybody. So, should you be a governor for premises or curriculum, then there are specific areas of this course in its learning that only those particular governors have access to. And in those specific areas, as you can see on the left hand side here, I've got full governors minutes, premises minutes there, and curriculum minutes are available there. The SEF and some reports from the head and safeguarding reports that take place annually are stored in this area. Not only are they accessible via its learning wherever the governor is, be it in their workplace or at home or um, in school using their laptop or iPad, for example, but they can also then see and share that information with other people and other stakeholders that are needed to actually have access to that information. Really useful tool in its learning that's being used to great effect in a lot of schools at the moment. Okay, let's come back to my communication area here. So, in terms of thinking about governors, looking after various different aspects of the school, as we've just discussed, I'm going to now move on to other stakeholders, including teachers, and why communication is important to teachers. Now, there's a few specific areas that I'd like to explore here. One of the things that I would normally get set up and available for members of staff is an opportunity to collaborate and share information and talk to each other in a safe and secure way out of the prying eyes of their students, where they can share best practice, share experience, or even simply just share some great things that worked for them in their class, or some really cool websites, as you can see on the screen here. So I would normally create, when I'm working with individual schools, what I would call the virtual staff room. Any teacher can go here any time of day, find their daily routine orders or their particular activities that happen over the day, and from that then access other areas that perhaps I want to explore some various different types of content that's available. I might want to explore some curriculum materials that have been put in the staff room by other members of staff or by myself to be able to share that and critically have a voice and share my opinion with other teachers as well. And you'll see here that I've started a discussion taking place. Typically, something like this would always be a great conversation point is technology in the classroom. An opportunity here for teachers to actually start to explain how they would like to use technology in the classroom, or if they are a little bit unsure as to how they should be using the iPads or want to be reminded about where the laptop trolley is, or whether they can even have access to the IT suite and what they should be doing in various different elements. Technology is always changing, always moving forward. An opportunity to discuss the latest changes is a great place to do that in this safe and secure environment inside a discussion ongoing that can take place anytime, anywhere. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can have access to that information there. Now, collaborating with other teachers is a great way of either showcasing your high quality teaching or even preparing resources that can be used and shared across departments. One of the things that itslearning excels at is the opportunity to actually add content that's been pre made by other members of staff and find that in itslearning. Now, looking at ready made content here is a great win to get uh, members of staff adopting their use of online learning with their students. And the fact that we can simply go and search for content that's been made available inside itslearning by just clicking on a particular link, finding some information about that, and adding that into the course. So I can add specific things into my course as I wish. And I just added one there. And I'll have a look at Dylan William as well. Perhaps I might want to have a look at assessment for learning. That's quite a neat follow on because I want to talk about that in a second. You'll see straight away that this content is now accessible inside the virtual staff room immediately. It's content that's been made by other teachers in other schools, even, and is now accessible inside my own course to use in my own way. So I've got some Dylan William classroom experiments happening here, a great deal of information there as well, and a breakdown on the video itself on the BBC series as to which parts of that video are an interesting point to watch, so I don't have to watch the whole thing because a lot of it is quite long. Really useful way of sharing and communicating and collaborating with other teachers inside itslearning. And that's not just within your own school, and it's not just within a group of schools that use itslearning, but that is internationally, and that's a truly international way of collaborating and communicating with other members of staff around the world. Now, other ways that communication is brought to the fore with teachers is in terms of assessment feedback for students is obviously putting students where we want them to be and regularly assessing our students to make sure they're on track and they're being stretched in just the right way to meet the ambitious targets that you're setting them in their learning. If we're looking at another area of itslearning, perhaps in a particular course where we've got some learning activities for a student, MFL class, for example, here, I have an opportunity to explore homework, but as a teacher with my own children, I can look at specific pieces of homework and provide feedback for my students in a number of different ways. I can provide feedback to my students in terms of a summative type grade, but I could also provide them with some feedback, from some formative feedback, by clicking on having a look at their homework and then providing that particular student with some feedback in comment form that only that one particular student would see, but also give them some audio and video feedback too. Now, this is absolutely fabulous from a teacher's perspective to be able to communicate with students in this way. That is a very familiar way that students are looking at the online world in terms of multimedia rich content. To be able to go in as a student and see feedback given to me delivered by my teacher and in audio or video format is a great way of fostering engagement and ensuring that we have a good communication flow between teacher and student. Let's go back into my communication course. And the last area I wanted to explore is communication for students. I didn't want to forget this one, so I'm glad I've got time to do this at the end. And I wanted to explore some of the ways that itslearning is being used and really is excelling at being used by students. There are a number of different schools that employ itslearning specifically for communication with their students. But it's great to actually use itslearning in a number of different ways using the communication tools that are available to you here to allow them to really work together and collaborate and actually share what they're doing and give them an opportunity to explore what they should be doing and perhaps what they shouldn't be doing as well. One of the simple ways that we've already explored of doing this in in other areas for governance and for parents, for example, would be using discussions. Now, a great way for fostering and improving communication amongst students is to use a discussion at any point in time during running a particular course. There's one example of a school in the UK that uses its learning's discussion features to hold online debates on, for example, moral issues in ICT. And how they do this is by using the discussion in its learning to allow students to have a voice to actually give their opinion on the issues surrounding ICT. And one of the things that in this one particular school was quite important and a challenging issue for a lot of members of staff as well as students was they've got CCTV in the whole school, an opportunity for students to actually discuss their opinions about that in a manner such as a discussion really gives a great deal of opportunity for having student voice and to communicate in an entirely new way for the children in a school environment on a specific school topic. Now, this was great having a discussion here like this because it provides peer support. It really truly differentiates amongst students as well with their different opinions and attitudes. And in terms of coursework, especially, it provides actually evidence of participation, evidence of work, and even in terms of this being used to support evidence of coursework being taken place, accessible evidence being taken place by using the discussion tool allows even opportunities for homework to be set and then a great deal more communication around that homework so that schools are using a discussion tool to support various different aspects and a great opportunity to explore increasing literacy skills as well. So not just for English, but I can think that English is a great example of why you would want to use a discussion across your class or across the entire course to um, really encourage students to collaborate and communicate with each other there. I would also say that using a discussion is an opportunity for a teacher to really drill down into what students think about the course as a whole. As you go through the lessons and the course is expanded across the term, an opportunity for your students to actually give feedback to you, what they like about the course, what they're enjoying about the lessons, and what they would like to perhaps change. It's a brave step forward, but would it always give you an opportunity to evaluate how the lesson is structured and the way that the content is being delivered? Moving on from discussions, because we have covered this one a little bit more than I intended to. Apologies about that. Other ways that you can collaborate with students and teachers alike is by using the conference tool. Conferencing in its learning has myriad possibilities. The opportunity to have even web-based lessons taking place, the opportunity to have a blend of in class and out of class lessons taking place. You can simply put have a number of different webcams open at the same time so that you can see the tutor and see the students in groups or individually and communicate with them via its learning just using the tools here using the conference tool. Additionally, using it for language classes, having students collaborating across a number of different countries, even using the conference tool, allow them to communicate in a live discussion, live debate across different countries using the conference tool here. If you've got specific children working individually on projects by themselves, the video conference tool comes into great effect and great use for them there as well, which is why we allow that to be used there. Even as far as homeschool links, back to parents again. have a discussion open for parents to be able to participate, so that parents get an opportunity at some point in time, a slot to video conference with a class teacher, with a form teacher, etc., um, to increase communication with parents as well. Even the opportunity for clusters of schools working together and having meetings in that way, collaboration and communication tools is very well fostered by using that tool. Okay, so I did want to keep this webinar very short, very sharp, just having some thoughts there on various different ways for various different stakeholders how students could use communication tools in its learning, how teachers, governors, and the local community as a whole, and parents can use its learning to great effect. My name is Alistair Cameron, and I have thoroughly enjoyed delivering this webinar for you this afternoon. If you've got any questions, please do feel free to put them in the questions box now, and I'd be more than happy to answer those. And I've also got an email address if you'd like to pop a question to me there. My email address is alistair@itslearning.com, but you've got that by registering on the webinar today. Okay, so thank you once again for taking part in today's webinar. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar series. If you would like some follow-up or even a visit from It's Learning at your school, please do get in touch, and I'm sure we'll be able to arrange a follow-up meeting to discuss more details of the webinar series and any questions that you've got then as well. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.